Totally unscripted, folks.
Unscripted blankness from the script.
Totally unscripted.
I'm just sitting here trying not to touch anything.
You're touching the floor.
Right.
Failed.
I can't not do that. I'm touching the air and the chair. But like if I tried to move this mic, it'll probably break, fall over, and the tangent cube will collapse on us, and then your house will burn down, fall over, and sink into the swamp. Based on what was happening.
We'll build it all the same.
Based on what was happening to me at work today, that's what would happen if I touched this mic stand.
Yeah. Basically, Tuesday is Monday on Tuesday.
Yeah. Like everything I tried to do broke. Damn it. I did maintenance on the machine, and then it's like, it stops working.
Yeah.
What is
Yep.
it?
God. Oh, my God.
Are you going to pressure wash that? Pressure washer stops
Right.
working.
Pressure washer breaks.
Yeah.
It was a tough day. But it's getting better. Okay.
It's getting better again.
That's right.
On Tuesday. Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Did you bring your coat?
Hey, I wanted to go back to something we talked about a while back. I don't remember what episode. I think it was episode 1.
Whoa. Whoa.
No, it wasn't. But we had talked about daylight savings time, and I was talking about how, I was looking at the stars and all this kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah, sorry, but we've been corrected on that. It's daylight
Telecorder.
saving
Oh yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's not savings.
Daylight wasting time.
That's right. It's just
Daylight
saving time,
But-
which is not ever.
Yeah, but what I was going on about was looking at the stars and trying to remember the positions of the zodiacal constellations at certain times of the year or whatever.
Yeah, trying to recognize them. Yeah.
Well, I just discovered this great thing because it gets cloudy and you can't look at the stars at night, or
Right.
I have to go to bed early because I got to get up early. I can't look at the stars at night, and that was bumming me out. But I just realized modern technology. So when I'm laying down to go to bed, whatever time that is, I'm in my bed. It's dark in the room, and I opened up
Sky map.
and I'm laying in the perfect position. I'm just looking around the sky from my room, and all the zodiacal constellations are labeled, and I can look and see which direction I'm looking from my bed at night. And you could do this in the city if you can't look at the stars at night, like when you're going to sleep, whatever time you normally go to sleep. So let's say you routinely go to sleep at 10 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
If you're a loser. I'm just kidding. No, but
Or if you have jet lag because of daylight saving time.
no one really knows what time you go to bed because it's daylight saving time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
9? 10.
That's right. So I was checking them out, and I'm looking at Leo, and I'm like, okay, the position of Leo is like this, and it's midnight. And I actually took a note. I decided I'm going to do this legit,
Yeah.
So I went to my little notes thing, and I was like, okay, it was the 1st of May when I did this, and I was like, okay, the position of Leo, the 1st of May in 2017, blah, blah. And I just made a quick little note, like, here's what the position is.
I remember the one we figured out. I've never forgotten it because all the twos lined up. It was February, and it was Orion, and at midnight, it was at 2 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah, it
Right.
tilted to 2 o'clock. I was like, so it's February 2, second month. Orion's at 2 o'clock at midnight.
And that was before daylight saving time.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I need to go back and correct my note, or just put whatever D S T. Just you know what I mean. Just put a little note there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought that is. I realized
So basically, what you're saying is a mobile phone is a window into space.
Yeah, and I realized, dude, that was really a pathetic rant. I was complaining that because of this 1 hour shift, I couldn't memorize the positions of the stars, and I'm like, well, it's cloudy a lot. That could be another reason.
Yeah.
Or I'm not a.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
But
this
I think
possible solution.
Yeah, but cloudiness isn't the same as shifting the hours around.
You're right.
Yeah.
I still have the same complaint, but I am determined to overcome that problem, and
Right.
this is a good solution. And I just thought, man, I want to tell all 5 of our listeners about it.
We have 5? Holy crap!
Because wherever you are, you try this out too. It's really cool.
That's right.
And
And
then-
it works from anywhere. You have mobile signal.
Right. Just make sure you got your location on there.
Right.
Because it'll be like, oh yeah.
Oh, you're on Mars. Nearest signal tower, Mars.
Anyway, that was just a little quick update on
That's
my
cool.
progress on the daylight saving time conundrum.
Yeah, that's cool. So, about that though, like, it really is about saving daylight. That's so no one wants it. The farmers don't want it. Everybody hates it. But the reason they keep enacting it is because of environmentalism. Like, they think this makes people not use electricity as much because if they go to bed, they don't have the lights on in the dark. That's what it's about. Because it was started during wartime, right? When they were trying to like make people cut down the power usage.
Peak hours.
Right. Well,
Change the peak hour.
Well, it changes the peak hour, but it also makes people so like you don't have your lights on in the dark because you're going to bed earlier.
When it's daylight.
Yeah.
I thought it was to save candle wax back in like
Well, it could've been-
Franklin's time. That's what it was all
to
about.
save whale oil.
It's all environmentalism. Save the whales
That's right. Well, the whales should be saved.
and the bees.
The bees, they should be saved. Birds too. I got some weird stuff about birds that I want to talk about.
No,
this
we're not
episode.
talking about birds and bees.
No, not birds and bees, just birds. Dead ones. They fly and then they die. But anyway, we'll get into that later. Yeah.
So yeah, we actually did some more scripting on this for this podcast, which we decided we needed to talk about the origins, our origins, and our the reason for our name.
Because it's episode 6.
That's right.
6. Wait, that's too many sixes.
Yeah, just one, 3 times.
That's right.
Right.
Many of you may be wondering, where is episode 1? Well, it does not. Well, it exists in some strange space-time, like secondary dimension thing. It got lost, basically. We lost it. We think. We're not really sure. I remember doing a pilot episode. Kyle thinks it was episode 1. I'm like, dude, we called it the pilot. You're like, dude, it's the first episode. And then I was like, but we didn't ever do a first episode because everybody was telling us like, you'll never even do the first episode of a podcast. So we just went to episode 2.
Yeah.
But I remember a pilot. Anyway, it's all confused. So there must be some kind of weird.
Pilot crashed. This is a big.
That was the plane that didn't have
Right.
the pilot. Okay.
That's right.
All right.
First episode. Wait, episode 2.
That's right. And then, so obviously, the pilot like disappeared from the plane crash and then walked down a volcano, like in the
That's
past.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down the flat Earth volcano.
right.
Where does the lava come from in the flat Earth?
From the turtle.
Hey, this is not flat.
Well, no, it's Flat Earth 2.0. It's the hill
Oh, okay.
with the ring of water around it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Here there be dragons.
Bee dragons. Is that like some kind of weird insect hybrid?
Yeah, papery wings. So what's the reason for the name?
Right.
Brothers of the Serpent.
There is an ancient. Well, there's a sort of a myth or a legend of an ancient order, like I guess you could call it a monastic or a secret society type of thing called the Brotherhood of the Serpent, or the Saramong Brotherhood. Saramong meaning like it's a term meaning like serpentine. So it's always kind of been a myth or whatever, but there was an archaeological find where they were digging. They were kind of like they had uncovered this monastery, a rock cut monastery or whatever. So there's all these rooms that had been hidden in rock, and I think it was in Turkey. It was somewhere in the Middle East, but they were going through the rooms, and it was an ancient place. They were going through the rooms where there were kind of remnants from the people who had lived there, the monks that had lived there a long, long time ago, and they found some papers of like a collection of letters, basically where one of the monks that was living in this place was communicating with a monk from somewhere else, and they were talking about the Saramong Brotherhood. That's what they called it in the letters. And they were saying that a colleague of theirs, who was in another city, had confirmed the presence of the Saruman Brotherhood in that city at that time or whatever. So they said he said that the Saruman Brotherhood was here, but they had since moved or whatever. And so these are ancient monks talking about something that they think, that a brotherhood that they think is ancient. Okay, so that kind of confirmed the existence of this most ancient of secret societies, the Brotherhood of the Serpent, the original.
Right.
And if you go, William Bramley wrote a book called Gods of Eden, which we probably should do some shows on. And he basically uses the Brotherhood of the Serpent as that's what he calls this long standing, like, a secret society that has sort of passed down knowledge, but it gets corrupted.
Right.
Okay, so originally it was originally started to be a good thing, to sort of to spread civilizing knowledge amongst mankind, but it gets corrupted at some point, and becomes a force for bad in most instances. But there are still pockets of good within it, and like he points out throughout the whole thing that he's like you can see the amongst all this chaos that the Brotherhood is spreading all over the world, that there are still humanitarian impulses coming from it, from members within. So it's this very strange thing. So anyway, that's where the name comes from. We're the Brothers of the Serpent, because the original idea of the Brotherhood of the Serpent was about knowledge, about spreading knowledge.
Right.
So that's what
And it's civilizing mankind.
Right. We're not civilizing anybody.
No. But we kind of, in researching the ancient Sumerian quote-unquote myths,
Right.
We sort of made the connection between Enki and
Yes.
the Brotherhood of the Serpent.
That's right. And so does Bramley. Like, he does too, yeah.
Okay. And Enki's, his main focus becomes at a certain point to help mankind, to save mankind.
And Enki is he's one of the Anunnaki, so
Right.
he's one of the Sumerian original gods, you could say. That he was one of the original three. You had Anu,
Right.
Enlil, and Enki. So Enki and Enlil were Anu's sons,
Right.
and they were on Earth. And Enki was like the badass.
Yeah.
He could build everything. He could invent anything. He could make stuff. He had all the ideas. He controlled all the meh. And Enlil was like, but I'm in charge, so shut up.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, so in that story, you see that, like, Enlil is sort of responsible for all of this death and destruction among mankind.
Yeah. He had, yeah.
And Enki is responsible for, lifting mankind up and trying to save them,
Right.
and free them from slavery.
Right. I mean, there's the part of the story where Enki basically gives them the ability to procreate, because up until that point, they're sterile hybrids.
Right.
And he's having to make them because they're being used as labor. And so he's having to make them, and then they get worked and they die off, and he's having to make more. And so there's all these operations all over the planet. The Anunnaki are running mines and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and they're using up the humans a lot. So, and he's like, God damn it, I'm just tired of making them. So he goes and he takes a particular set, and these are the ones that end up being called the Adamu, the first men, and he gives them the ability to procreate. Him and his sister, Ninhursag. Really strange names for the females in it, but yeah. So him and she's like the geneticist. So they work on this, and they are able to make mankind a viable species. The Adamu become the first men. The ones before that are just sort of, I don't know if they had a name, but they were kind of like not really considered sentient. Really, they were almost
They just kind of called them like the workers.
right, and they were like they weren't. I don't know. You just sort of get the weird idea that like they didn't have personalities.
Right. There was the problem of like trying to give them or make them in such a way where they could do these menial tasks without messing up, but they needed them to be able to think.
Right.
You
need them to have a certain
better.
level of intelligence, but not too much.
Right.
Yeah,
So there was like a disagreement between Enlil and Enki, and they were brothers,
Yeah.
half brothers.
And Enlil was there's a whole complicated thing about the succession and like who is the rightful heir, because Anu is the king or the emperor of their society or whatever, and so Enki's his firstborn, but Enlil is his proper firstborn.
Right.
Yeah, the one from the whatever the
Legit wife.
The legit wife. Yeah. So even though Enki is the older brother and he's actually better in almost every way than Enlil is the one that is actually the successor to the throne. So he is actually more senior to like in the command thing to Enki. Like he's above him. So
Right.
Enki is given the Abzu, which is like I think it's Africa. I don't know.
And he's given orders basically to, the Adamu are going to be this certain way, and that's it. And Enki breaks the rules.
Yeah,
And gives multiple times to help mankind.
Right.
So in their stories, he saves the Adamu from the flood.
Right, that's right.
He was the one who basically tells Noah, their version of Noah, like how to build a boat and that the flood is coming.
Yeah, and it's kind of a funny story too. But like Enki does this stuff, and he's like the trickster in a way. He is. There's the council of 50, and he like in this 50, like Enlil gives the command, like none of you, because there's like all these Anunnaki there, and they all have humans, right? And various levels of them, like, or various ones of them like them more than others. So some of them treat them like just like objects, and other ones like them a lot. So he's like, he makes them all take a vow to not tell the humans about this coming cataclysm.
Right.
And Enki swears this as well. So but he's like, God damn it, so he hit one of his servants to go and summon Xisithris, and says, tells him to come, like your God commands you to come to the, to this wall or whatever. So Noah walks over to the wall and he's standing there, and Enki's on the other side and he starts telling the wall about the coming flood. He's like, wall, there's going to be this crazy flood. If I were you, wall, I'd build a boat. I'd build it just like this,
Gives him all the design.
So he tells the wall, he doesn't break his vow. He does not tell any humans, he just tells the wall that there's a human on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And hears everything. That's great.
And after the whole flood was over, when Enlil finds out that some of the Adamu survived it, he's like all mad about it.
Yeah.
And he wants to wipe him out. And a bunch of the other Anunnaki, say no, and they convince him that this is a good thing. It's going to be great. And
Right, and
all that.
also the flood was far more destructive than they thought it was going to be. Like you get the idea that they kind of left the planet, but they watched it, and it describes them weeping as they see that just the destruction, huge waves rolling across everything they knew, and they were just like, oh my God. And all the people down there are just getting wiped out, and they knew it. So it really affected quite a lot of them very powerfully. And so when they came down there, and Enlil was like, well, some of them survived, and they're like, hey, chill out, bro.
So he ends up changing, his mind. They're like, okay, yeah, you're right, it's cool. Somehow he decides that it was a good thing, and then he's the one who makes the promise.
And I think he decides that it was a good thing because he realizes that Noah saved all the crops.
That's right.
Like, because he was like, wait, we don't have any food here anymore. But Noah's like, I got seeds. So that's So we were telling that story because Enki started the Brotherhood of the Serpent.
Right.
He was the serpent.
Right.
Like his original, Enki was called, he had a lot of names, but the Sumerians called him it was something about the jeweled serpent or something like that, because and whenever you see him depicted, he's got these wide shoulders or whatever, and there are these like, it's like he's wearing a coat, and on the coat are these knobs or whatever. They're meant to the color's gone, but they were meant to represent jewels.
And he also is like, he's represented with like these waves of water.
Yeah, he has,
and there's fish.
He has shoulder rivers.
Yeah, they're just coming up, and there's fish in them and everything.
Yeah, because he was the the Romans called him Poseidon, so he was Neptune, or they called him Neptune. The Greeks was Poseidon, so he was the god of water, the god of the ocean.
Right, and then that correlates to Viracocha, who comes out of the sea. They call it Viracocha, which meant foam of the sea.
Right. The most fascinating connection to me on that one is the Australian Aborigines, who have their original creator hero god was called the Rainbow Serpent.
Right.
I'm just like, holy crap! Like, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So and then of course you have the Maya had Kukulkan, the feathered serpent.
Right.
Right. And their feathers, when you see the depictions, are always iridescent, like peacock feathers. So it's like it's the same being.
So we're kind of looking at that whole thing in this concept of the Brotherhood of the Serpent, and that like all of the deeds that Viracocha or the Viracochas did with their 72 followers and all this. They go and they civilize man. They teach them
honest, like the Greek one. Like that was a weird. He comes out of the water, and they're like, he was a fish, but beneath the fish head was a man head. You're like, what? And he had fish, fins, but beneath the fins were man hands.
Yeah, you see some of those depictions. It's like this big fish with feet sticking out of the bottom.
And there's the fish head is like looking up into space, and there's like a man head
face sticking out of it.
You're like, okay, that's
pretty
weird.
Good. Age of Pisces.
Right, but that resulted in like this cult, the cult of Oannes or whatever, and the priest would run around wearing fish suits, like like taking your symbols a little too seriously.
So what do you think?
Guys?
I just thought of this though. Another tangent.
Wear a fish suit.
But the story of Jonah getting swallowed by a giant fish, right? And he's in the belly of the fish, and it changes it totally changes him and everything.
I was talking to somebody about this. I was like, that wasn't a whale. That was like a submersible or something.
Right.
Like, can you really get swallowed by a whale
and survive in there?
I mean, whales are baleen, unless it's a toothed whale, and then you would definitely get.
But I mean, still, he's in there for how long? And he's like sitting in the stomach.
Right, and it's like I'm just gonna take this guy to Nineveh or whatever.
Right, there wouldn't be any air for him to breathe in there.
Right. The idea is there's the air hole, but he would have to be in the lungs, right? Yeah. Like, okay, so if he's in the stomach, he's gonna be being digested. Yeah, it's not possible. So, but the whale is a symbol.
Yeah.
For a machine.
Just like the bird is a symbol for a place.
Right. Yeah. The whale is a symbol. Yeah.
Anyway, that's the basis of our name. We're the Brothers of the Serpent is
just a play on that. Yeah.
A play on that, and the idea that we like this idea of the bringer of knowledge and understanding and civilized behavior to mankind.
And mainly because we're in like the most secret society ever in the world. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Composed of two snakes.
Bring me back something.
Okay, so what do we got on time here? 20?
Yeah, we got a little bit.
Right, but not long enough.
7 minutes.
Stay out of the shadows.
7.
Playboy.
Well, okay. So the other thing we talked about in the episode that does not exist, that may have been called a pilot.
No one ever found the pilot.
Right. No, the pilot was not in the plane.
That's right.
Yeah. But there are footsteps coming down that mountain from thousands of years before. We talked about how we got into this stuff, like what the like atypical like origin story. I would love to see, like Spider-Man's origin story on the big screen. Maybe if somebody would make Spider-Man origin story movie, that would be awesome. I'd like to see that. Or maybe a Batman origin story. That would be great. Yeah. So somebody should do that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. They should do it 3 times.
Yeah, or 6 times. Just keep doing it. So we have the way that we got into looking into this stuff, because you kind of have to do the Alice thing. You have to chase the fucking rabbit down the hole, So what was the rabbit? For me, like there's that movie or the book or whatever called John Dies at the End, right?
I don't know it.
Okay, well, yeah, there is one. It's called John Dies at the End or whatever. This one is Russ dies at the beginning. So that's what happened. Well, I mean, I didn't die, but we had the wreck. We had an accident, which like drastically changed everything. And one of the things that happened to me was a 13-hour surgery. And I woke up in the ICU, but when I was waking up, I had the idea. I was like, what am I doing back here, right? And I don't remember where I was or whatever, but I just have now, many years, like a decade past. I have the memory of a sensation of loss that like I had, when I was waking up, I was like, I was coming back from somewhere where I had been, like I thought this life was done.
Yeah.
Like I was, it was so far in my past. I was like, what am I doing back here? Like I thought that was over. I was like, dude, I was somewhere else, a different life, doing, And so like I woke up really pissed off in the ICU.
It's crazy.
Because it was literally, I mean, I don't remember anything about where I was. I just remember the sensation of like, holy fuck, why am I back here? Like it's a very strange. And so it's kind of like I guess it's kind of like a near-death experience in a way, right? I don't have any memories of a near-death experience, and they never said that I died on the operating table or whatever. It was just a really long operation, but somehow that changed me, that changed because I contemplated that sensation, that feeling, a long time. I kept thinking about like, what was that about? And of course I'm bedridden. So I played video games and shit. Like eventually I get out of the hospital, I'm back home, but I can't really move around a whole lot. And I'm awake at night because there's various, pain, can't sleep, or I'm on all kinds of opium drugs and stuff. And then I eventually, like I'm bored of all the video games I have. I've read every freaking book in the house. So I'm on the computer in the middle of the night, just looking for something to read or whatever, and I come across this website that's just, I think it was called, I don't know, but it was just mysteries. Like it was a website of like, here's all the weird shit that we can find, right? And I spent days reading it fascinated me. Every fucking thing on that website I read about all these out of place artifacts, all these weird places, all these strange events, just like, and I was like, holy crap, look at all this fucking shit. Some of it I'd heard of, but, and that website was comprehensive. So it connected to gigantic articles about the pyramids, and I was just devout, I had nothing to do. I couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, just like sitting around the house, fucked up on pills, in pain, and I'm just like reading this stuff. And that's how I first dove into it, and like I've always loved mysteries. Like I used to get my parents would get the Reader's Digest, and I'd flip it over to like read the weird stories. They have these weird short stories and mysteries or whatever they tell you. I always have loved that kind of stuff. And so when I found this website, it was like a gold mine. I read that thing for days, and then that one connected to other websites that were the same sort of compilations of stuff. So like I still use some of those websites as reference, like the Biblioteca one. Mm-hmm. That one has just, you can't even read all that stuff. It's so huge, massive archive.
Pseudo-apocrypha.
Yeah. And then you run across pseudo-apocrypha, and I'm reading the Book of Enoch, like, holy crap, this dude went to space with angels. So that's what started it for me, and then Google Images. Google Images was like amazing. Like I'm like, okay, so I can just type in like weird geology, and just bam, I get thousands. Just a huge list, and I keep going like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? What the hell is that? Right. So I started developing a collection because I live out in the boondocks. So like once my slow internet connection has loaded a large picture once, I don't want to have to do it again, so I save it. So I have everything. Like I've got a gigantic archive of stuff. And then of course, looking at stuff like that, I start to see people talking about it, and then that gets me into the sort of the paranormal world. Like I suddenly start encountering all these people, these names, like David Hatcher Childress, Laird Scranton, fucking Graham Hancock, right? And then I find Graham Hancock's book, and I'm like, okay, I need to read this Fingerprints of the Gods.
Yeah, I remember when
blew
you read that.
my fucking mind.
I remember when you read that, like, dude.
Yeah, and then of course, so once I had done, I was like, holy shit, there's a whole collection of these books written by these people about this stuff out there that I didn't even know about, right? And since then, I've not even been able to read. I've been a reader my whole life, always reading a book. But now I cannot read fiction. I mean, I can sort of, but like if I'm reading fiction, I feel like I'm like,
gotta get through it real quick.
Yeah, or I feel like I'm like doing something I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
I have this big stack of nonfiction about stuff that I'm like, man, I got all these things I need to read that are about real things that are weird, but they're real. So that's basically my origin story. That's how I got into this stuff. Was basically just I died at the beginning, and then like that changed everything. Then I started reading weird websites, and here we go. So it's a pretty simple origin story, but that's how that's how I got into it. And then I started trying to get Kyle into it, and that's where we'll go at the end of this break, which we should take right now.
Good timing.
See, pro.
All right, Snake Bros.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from our 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of science, nestled amongst the dusty bones of an ancient seabed high up on the Edwards Plateau. We bring you magic, mysteries, and mayhem. We are Brothers of the Serpent. And I think we're going to do Kyle's origin story.
I was born in a basket. Floated down
Beneath a special star!
I was floated down the Medina River, and I was picked up by Princess
Yeah, why do they call it the Medina?
Snake.
It's
Means snake.
Medina's an ancient town in Egypt.
Oh, well, it means snake in Spanish.
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's what they say.
There's also pyramids.
We like to fish in the river of the serpent.
That's right. But I swear, when you fall in that river, you see pyramids out there in those hills. Ban Giza.
And easy, buddy.
All right, yeah. So, after I got into all this stuff, I started coming down to Kyle's house and showing him stuff, trying to get him. I'm like, bro, check this out. Look at this gigantic conspiracy, or look at these aliens. And he was always like, yeah. But he was interested, but he just didn't like dive into it like I wanted, he was always interested in what I was saying, but it was just never it didn't grab him until one day it did, and that's what he's going to talk about.
Yeah, I was never much for conspiracy theories. I don't know. I was just like,
Seems like an easy answer.
It's like there's a conspiracy for everything, right? Like daylight saving time. Stopping us from doing magic.
Everything is a conspiracy.
But yeah, I just wasn't interested in any of that particular stuff. And still today, I don't know. I don't follow the UFO sightings and abductions and all that kind of stuff. So many of the what do you call them?
Paranormal subjects?
No, the personal stories of things. Just
Anecdotes?
Anecdotes don't really grab me so much.
Because you think they're all lying.
No, I just can't do anything with them. I don't know what to do with them for some reason. But I've always been interested in ancient cultures and ancient artifacts and all of that stuff from the past. And I believed for the longest time that the standard model of the archaeological record and just everything that we were told, these are tombs and blah blah blah, that was the way it was.
Yeah.
But it was still fascinating to me. I've always been fascinated by the pyramids, and the pyramids everywhere, and ancient ruins all over the place. And whenever I traveled, I always made a point to go visit whatever ancient sites I could.
Remember when I was like, dude, we should watch Ancient Aliens. You were like, what's it about? I was like, basically they take you to all these crazy ancient archaeological sites that are weird and have mysterious things about them. You're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So
I
watched
all
of those.
Watched every single one.
But yeah, watching the pilot episode of Ancient Aliens, I was just blown away. Yes, dude, I need more of this. And I watched every single episode multiple times.
Yeah.
I've always loved that stuff, and I learned a great deal from watching Ancient Aliens about, not necessarily that, all of these guys on that show, their theories are alien based, correct or whatever. But the mysteries
Right.
that they point out in all of the episodes,
That's
I
right.
just love them.
The great thing about Ancient Aliens was not that, like, look, aliens did all this stuff, but that they pointed out the gigantic holes in the standard model. Basically, they're like, look, this doesn't make sense, so maybe aliens? And, like, you could just ignore that last part and say, look, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what was great about it.
But anyway, I've always been interested in that. Like, I've always been a big outdoors person, and also interested in music and in acoustics, just the nature of sound and electricity and all of that, the stuff I use in the studio, microphones, speakers, how they work. I always dissected speakers, like took them all apart to figure out how they work. And so I've always been really interested in how things work. I took everything apart to learn how it worked. And the thing about ancient artifacts, like finding an arrowhead or whatever, was always fascinating to me. And I would think about how this tool got here, where I found it hundreds or thousands of years after the last person held it. Just always blew my mind, and it was always a pastime of mine to go out and explore and look for ancient artifacts and look for caves and just glad get lost and but so Russ turned me on to Ancient Aliens, and that just took it to a whole nother level for me. Because of that first pilot episode, I learned about Enoch, and I was just like, what? Like, there's a book of Enoch? Like, yeah. So I went. Wait. Cain has a son? Yeah. So Russ pointed me to pseudoapocrypha.com, which is just like a link, a site full of links to all of the ancient texts that have been discovered and translated in all the different translations. And so I started reading all of those. And
There's also the I probably can't say it right, the Nag Hammadi library, which is the Dead Sea Scrolls translation stuff, which is like, holy crap.
Yeah. And then there was one more major paradigm shift for me that really, really sucked me in to all of this that we theorize about, and that was the giants. And
we were talking about
Russ
giants.
Russ showed me a presentation done by a guy named Jim Vieira. He's from the Northeast United States somewhere, and he is a stonemason.
Yeah, he's from the New England area.
Yeah. And he doing stonemasonry, building stuff all over. He's a builder. Learned the trade, and learned to recognize all of these different building styles, and then the history of where we got them and all this kind of stuff. And it at some point in his presentation, he's talking about how he remembered there was this stone little shelter or root cellar that they called them in the Northeast near where he grew up, that he used to go out in the woods and visit. And he realized later in life that, like, man, that thing was actually made in this certain way, that it was dry laid stone, and there was like huge lintel stones and all this stuff, and he was just like, I gotta go check that thing out again.
Dry laid means no mortar, and then the lintel stones they're the ones that make the ceiling. So you make two walls, and then the lintel stone crosses across the top of the walls, and like these things would have dry laid walls that were so finely fitted and just so well made, and then these lintel stones that were gigantic that crossed the a huge slab that would cross the entire thing. So he realized, like, this is not number one, it's the colonists didn't do this, right? These are not colonial root cellars. Most of the time they were in the middle of nowhere where there was never a house.
So anyway, he made a study on that, on these stone chambers in the Northeast, and documented a whole bunch of them. Went and visited a whole bunch of them, and
started finding out they were aligned.
Right. He started looking at, like, noticing that the entryways were aligned with the summer solstice or the winter solstice or the equinox or whatever, and and that ended up leading him into trying to research like the origins of
Be
these things.
careful.
And so he would go to the town libraries in these small little towns and like dig through all of these old documents to try to figure out like, well, who settled here and what
who made this,
and couldn't find any record of people actually claiming that they built it. And then a lot of them he was finding is that they were saying it was there when they got there.
Right, and that there were mounds associated with it. Yeah.
Right. And so the more research he did in this presentation that he's delivering, he eventually gets to the giants.
Yeah, he's like, so it's gonna get a little weird here.
Yeah.
I started finding these accounts of like gigantic
Yeah.
skeletons,
And all these accounts in these records in these towns were excavations where they found skeletons that were very, very large, and we talked all about that in a previous podcast. But anyway, that
We did.
yeah, we talked about the longheads. Remember?
Yeah, the longheads. Yeah.
Yeah, so all of that, like he does a very thorough presentation on all of the records of giant skeletons being found near and around these stone chambers, which are built in ways that the settlers couldn't do. Some of the stones are massive, like Russ said, and they're the building styles like corbelled ceilings of dry laid stone, like they built false structures inside and then laid the stone on top and then removed the structure from the inside, and the stones like locked together.
Yeah.
And they're all aligned like perfectly to the equinox here or there or whatever.
Yeah,
Which I just realized actually suggests that their age based on precession.
Oh, yeah.
There's, you know.
that's right. Yeah, because it would be it would have to point right. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, we'll have
Position
to
on show.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that a little bit deeper and go revisit it. But anyway, when I realized when I watched that thing, I actually the information that he gives is solid, and I was just like, wait. So there is another species of intelligent beings that are not us on this planet that have been building stuff, and it blew everything out of the water, like the whole.
Right. And
I mean, it just opens up the possibility of like, well, then who built the pyramids, or how, all of these massive stone construction.
yeah, and he ends it with that.
feats.
He ends it with the Lincoln quote, which we also talked about in the previous, and like that was what you like. Wait, what Lincoln? What Lincoln said this, and you went and looked it up, and you're like, okay, holy crap, he did. He actually went and visited all these mounds. So like that was really.
But it was a cascade of paradigm shifts for me. But definitely one of the original things was watching Ancient Aliens and getting turned on to just a resource where I could go and read all of these ancient texts which were not in the Bible, the canonical Bible, which I'd always loved the Old Testament stories, and they're just very mysterious, strange things, giants and massive floods, and there's all this cool stuff. Men with incredible strength and all. There's just so many
Finger of God
strange
writing in stone.
stories in the Old Testament that I always loved, and I just found this resource of all of these other texts that were full of other stories and having read a whole bunch of them. Well, I can't say I read a bunch. I read some of them. I have this other thing that I do where I get PDFs and I put them on my phone and I just make the phone read it to me. Yeah, but I was not an avid reader like Russ, and I read really slowly.
Well, not all the time, but yeah.
But yeah, I don't read nearly as fast as Russ does.
Yeah, but man,
And
you've been chewing through those ancient texts with that phone talker. That's like
audiobooks.
I think it's great.
Yeah, so I had the same problem that Russ had, where the fiction no longer was. Whenever I was listening to audiobooks that were fiction, I was just like, man, I'm doing something wrong, wasting time. Like I need to do.
Wasting time. Like you'd be
But
studying.
I found like all of these audiobooks that I could find that had this, information about this, all of this ancient stuff in them, and listened to them all and was running out, and there were, the 12th Planet series.
Yeah, the Sitchin series.
By Zachariah Sitchin, I can't get on audiobook. So I found Yeah, I found the PDFs of the entire series, and I just was like, well, I'm working in machines all day and
Pirate.
driving all the time, so I just got this app on my phone called Read Aloud something or whatever, and I just load the PDF in there and push play in there.
I wrote it, Ricardo.
And when I pull up the stoplights, I mute it.
Yeah, because people are like, what the hell?
I don't want to be blasting this bad boy out there. And the Anunnaki then made the Adamu, and that is mankind. I was like, what? But yeah, the Earth Chronicles by Zachariah Sitchin blew me away. Dude. And I got to go through them again. It's just, but there's so much out there that you can't get on audiobook. And so I definitely listen to the monotonous computer voice.
Yeah, it's worth it. I mean, like, dude, I read the Earth Chronicles, and holy crap, I love those books. There's stuff
Now
in there.
now I'm listening to Velikovsky's
Velikovsky.
Worlds in Collision.
Yeah. Dude,
That is freaking awesome too.
and like, so when you get done with Worlds in Collision, do Earth in Upheaval, because that one,
yeah, I got him.
yeah, that one, like, he does Worlds in Collision and just pisses off the entire world.
Yeah. I'm also listening to the Catechism,
Oh yeah.
which is a Catholic Church book written by a bunch of Catholic
Yeah,
scholars.
it's a collection of papers and
Yeah.
treaties and other writings on the. Yeah.
I've also been listening to the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, now there's a
namely,
book.
yeah, namely the
Books of Nephi.
the books of Nephi, Nephils,
Yeah.
and also been
Where they
listening
talk
to the
about the lost
Quran.
cities.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm not like doing one at a time. I'm just like going through. I got all these PDFs.
Man, I
and
love,
just,
dude,
like,
the
go
stuff in
through.
the Quran about the jinn.
Yeah, I haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, diving into the rabbit hole, and also, a bunch of stuff about the universe. Okay, another big thing for me was, in when this paradigm about the giants, like, it just blew away the whole archaeological thing. There was this other thing that was happening at the same time, which was it was kind of all together, but the realization that we meaning modern
Mankind, yeah.
modern man and all of our collected knowledge, we don't know so many things that I thought we knew.
Right. You have to
Like,
unlearn.
I think you and Archer, our friend Archer, we were having GMA. We were having a discussion about electricity, and you guys were just like, yeah, like nobody really knows what it is. Like, we don't know what it is. And I'm like, what? Like, I thought we knew.
Like,
this.
it's like this. It's
It's like,
shocks you,
yeah,
man.
you
Come
know,
on,
turn the light on, bro. No, we don't know what it is. And
It's holes
and-
running backwards.
And so for me, it was realizing that we didn't know things is what really
And yeah.
inspired me
And
to,
magnets, we
to
talked about that
learn
too.
about it.
You
And
don't understand magnets.
so I would get books on physics or whatever, chemistry, all of this stuff that I could get to learn what we might know, or what experiments have, what results we've gotten from experiments and all of these various phenomena, and how all of that happens, and all the while with this idea that we don't actually know what's going on.
Right.
And it just makes me want to study more of it.
Right. So you become interested when you think that it's all known. You're kind of not interested.
Yeah, it's like, so Russ and I had this discussion about, like making hydrogen and building some type of generator or whatever engine out of hydrogen, and I was like, it's like,
If it works, people would try.
yeah, yeah, exactly. If it works, it would already been done.
Yeah.
Like, it's just pointless.
Yeah.
But not anymore. Like, now I realize that we don't know, and there's so many. Just
People don't try things because of that.
Right.
Because they're like, well, it would have been tried. It's probably been tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying stuff in the 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of
That's right.
science.
Sometimes exploding the world and having to rebuild it.
Thus far, I haven't achieved anything monumental, but I have learned a whole lot about how little I know.
What about that time you duplicated yourself?
So that's kind of how I got into it. All of this, whatever this is,
No one knows what this is. I think that's part of the thing. It's like
You're way far away from your mic, bro.
I need to move the chair.
Just move the mic.
There. Can't. I touch it. Fall down, break. Cube will collapse. House will burn down, fall over, sink into the swamp. So, the books of Nephi, like the Mormon thing, this interests me. Like, I really think that, well, okay, when you look at the Joseph Smith story, right? And I know everybody probably has seen the South Park thing where they're making fun of it, but are they really making fun of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely thought they were when I first saw
Well,
it.
when you listen to the song, you know, it's like Joseph Smith, he was a prophet, dum 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 dum, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But what they're saying is that story is stupid, right? But what really happened is not stupid. He he didn't say he was a prophet. You know, basically he's like when he was a kid, when he was like in his teens or whatever, he gets this vision of something he calls an angel, but when you listen to what he says, that this being of light appeared in his room one night, and it like basically said this whole spiel that it wasn't responsive to him. It just appeared. It was like blah 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 blah, and then it stops, and then it comes back and it says all of it again, then it stops, and then it comes back and it repeats over and over,
Right.
all night, like it's a playback.
But then he described one part where it came back and it
Interacted with
recited. No, it recited the whole message again, but there was one part that was changed.
Oh,
It had like it had changed one little part, and he wrote about how it was strange the way it had changed it, as though it was like edited almost. Like,
right.
it's really weird.
Yeah. So
But it kept him awake all night.
right. You get the idea though that he's having an encounter, but of what?
It sounds like a technological thing.
Yes, exactly. It sounds like some
He
kind of
talked about
projection.
the beam of light.
A beam of light
coming
came-
down, and
yeah.
it's like there was a being in it,
Right.
in the beam of light,
And
that
it was
sort
a-
of you could see through it. a
Right.
little
It was a spectral sort of thing, and he you know he calls it Moroni, the angel's name, right, or whatever he calls it, Moroni or whatever. But
Yeah.
which is where
Well,
the
it introduced itself as Moroni.
right. But and then this thing eventually leads him to. He says it leads him to a particular hill in, is it in New Jersey?
Yeah, the message was that it told him basically that he needed to go to this place, and I think it's in New Jersey.
Yeah. So
Or
it's like
something.
there's a hill or whatever. And you're going to uncover these texts or whatever. Basically.
Yeah, it tells him to meet him up there,
Right.
and he goes. He's like uneducated.
Right. He can't read.
I think his, they were Christians.
Yeah, they
His
were
family.
they were serious Christians, but like almost fundamentalist or whatever. But his dad was like, "You've had a vision.
Yeah,
you must follow it."
he's all worried about it, and he doesn't know what to do. And
Yeah.
he's working on the farm with his dad, and he finally just like his dad notices that he's all
Weird, yeah.
and not feeling well. And he's like, "Yeah, I didn't sleep good last night." Blah blah blah. And he ends up telling his dad about the whole vision. And his dad is like, "Well, then you need to do it.
Yeah, you
like,
must
go.
follow.
Like you don't have to work today. Go do it." And so he got the courage and he went to the place, went up on the hill, and the same being was there. and
Appears
the
there.
Same,
Yeah.
Same sort of light
Projection thing.
Yeah.
And
And
it-
tells him to move this big stone.
Yeah. Up at the top of this big hill or whatever. So he shifts the stone, and there's a case, some kind of box.
Yeah, and inside it is like I think
There's a vestment and a
something you wear, like you put on a vest, and it's covered in all these stones.
right. It's the yeah. It reminded me of the 12 stone things that
Right.
the Pharisees wore or whatever in the Bible.
And there were these books in there with all this writing on them that he couldn't translate.
And
But
they were
when
metal.
he put this thing on, he was able to translate it.
Right, and there's spectacles, some kind of things he put over his eyes. I can't remember if it's or it was a hat. I can't remember. There was something else, right?
Headdress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he puts on these vestments basically, and then that allows him. And the book is it's specifically described.
Sounds
as
like the stuff that Ninhursag was.
right. Ninhursag. He describes it specifically as like it was a series of metal plates that had so a stack of metal plates that had. There was kind of like a 3-ring binder. There were holes punched in one end, like 3 holes or whatever punched in one end of the plates that had rings in them to make them into a kind of a book.
Right.
And they were golden, I guess, or I don't know if they were actual gold or they were just gold in color. Like they were made of some kind of metal, and they were stamped or imprinted with
Right, and this is at a time when he could not have known about
Metal books.
the metal library or
Right,
all
yeah.
of these other myths and,
That have
and
come up
accounts
since.
that we've heard about where people have found these metal pages. So it's very odd. It I never thought I would be someone who was reading the Book of Mormon and actually believing
right.
that this guy really did experience these things that he's saying.
And
but
basically
actually
the-
it seems plausible based on all the other.
And basically, he's in the Book of Mormon. Basically, it's mostly the regular Bible, but there's these extra
Right, there's these books, these
That-
additional books in there that were
translations from that.
Right.
Yeah.
And they actually describe a story about the time of the Tower of Babel, when it was known that the tower was going to be destroyed. There was a family, and this family went to God basically and pleaded with him, like, "Hey, we have not broken any of the laws.
Yeah, we were not
and
involved in this
We don't
tower
want to be
thing."
involved in the confusion of tongues or whatever is going to happen."
Be
And
careful.
so God was like, "Okay, yeah, you know, you're cool, and I'll
Here, climb in
rescue
this
you from
well."
it." But he basically makes them a deal, like he leads them away from the area to the ocean somewhere. I can't remember what the ocean is.
Right. He's like, get in this whale.
No, he makes them construct boats, but the boats are closed, completely closed in, except for one hatch, and they're supposed to get inside them, and then they close that hatch and seal it up with like pitch and all this stuff. And there's one little hole.
Bitumen.
There's one little hole that they can open from time to time to get air, and they put them into the ocean, and he makes them a deal, basically like, I'm going to give you a promised land, basically their own promised land, and that they have to follow these certain rules on that promised land, and they'll be able to live there forever. Blah blah blah. So they get in these boats that are basically submarines,
Right.
and they go across the ocean,
Yeah. The Atlantic, presumably. Yeah.
the Atlantic. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where
I
they
thought
were.
it was the Atlantic. Oh, yeah, you're right. Could
They
be
were
the
they were
Pacific.
near Babel, wherever that was.
That was in the Middle East, so the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
So they'd be calling the Atlantic.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah, maybe so. I can't remember what the ocean was. I should look it up.
They would call it something else anyway.
Yeah, but anyway,
Atlantic-
they basically
Atlantis?
they arrive in the Americas, and they are basically given this land, and they lived here for however long and built all this stuff and all this crap,
Right.
and then at some point they broke the rules and they were destroyed.
Right. It describes cataclysmic events. Like the part of the books of Nephi that I was most interested in is basically when it's describing this cataclysm, and it tells you the locations in North America of the
Right.
of the biggest cities and how they were destroyed. And
Right.
Some of them were just buried.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure there was one city that actually had been discovered later
Yeah.
that really did exist.
Yeah.
Right. That was depicted in this.
Yeah.
In the book.
Yeah. There are correspondences with some of them, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
with ancient places, but
So I like to imagine this all of this stuff, the ancient sites down in Mexico and coming all the way up here, and then of course all the stone chambers and whatever. And
Yeah.
like who knows? But you know these amazing mounds and stuff that like the Serpentine Mound. What if all of that stuff was constructed and built by those people that were
Right.
that were sent over here before the confusion
And,
of tongues in the Tower of Babel
would some of-
after the flood?
would,
This is,
would some of them have been giants, or would the
Yeah.
giants have already been here?
I don't know.
Because I mean, dude, some of those giant skeletons, like these are not ones that were found in mounds, but there have been some finds that are just like, you just get the idea that they are like incredibly ancient. Like the one where the guys were prospecting in the desert for, you know, they were looking for good places to mine. I don't know if it was silver or gold that they were looking for. So they're walking through a canyon, and up on the canyon wall they see a black, like bone sticking out of the canyon wall, and it's black. You know, it's so ancient that it's black, and and it turns out to be it's the
Hello.
leg bone, like the femur of a gigantic person, and it's folded up into into the limestone of the wall, and it was like the limestone had been eroding, and it was like revealing the bone of the leg, and like so that
Yeah, in the limestone. That's
Right.
really old.
yeah.
I don't know, but it's
Or what about the thing at the bottom of the mines? You know, the
so there's this idea that before the flood,
Still do.
you know, there's so you have what was his name, like Shimyaza or whatever.
yeah, Shinyaza.
And he comes down with the 200, right?
Are we-
The Nephilim.
Yes. Are we? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're running out of. Well,
We got time? Is that two? Okay, yeah.
no, we don't have time.
We don't have time. Have no time.
Anyway, they
Snakes.
come out of the mountains and snakes. Say this.
We'll get back to it. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back to you with Nepas and Longheads and Snakes and Mormons.
Snake Bros. Welcome back to Snake Bros podcast, where we throw pods full of snakes.
We're casting pods full of snakes
Yeah,
to the river of dreams.
from the 10 by 10 by 10 by 10 minute time cube tangents. Wait, I did that wrong.
You did?
Let me do that over. Where there are no do-overs.
You can do it over.
No, I can't do it. We got something special, special for this segment.
Maybe.
Real quick. Well, we don't really know how special it's going to be, but
Yeah, it may not be very special. But
we're
it
going
could
to
be.
find out. We have a disgruntled listener
Yeah.
wanted to chime in.
I guess the Mormons are on hold.
Yeah, this listener wanted to chime in and tell us how much he loves our show. Welcome, Tyrell Stone, to the Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
Hey, how you guys? Snake Bros, how you doing?
Hey, we're doing pretty good, buddy.
bro.
Oh, man, it's good to be on the show, man. Long time listener, first time caller.
Hey, well, great to have you. This is your time to shine.
right.
What's your question for the hosts?
Okay, one of you jackasses didn't know who wrote Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And, for a while there, I stopped calling you guys Snake Brothers. I started calling you guys Snake Sisters, okay?
Ah.
Because, yeah. I was a little disgruntled. I took a nap.
Wait a second.
I took a nap and I got over it, buddy. I got over it. But listen, here's the Jewski right now. Someone, I don't know who it was. I think it was Kyle. Pretty sure it was Kyle. Russ would know. Russ would know.
It was Kyle.
Kyle's a Star Trek fan, I think. So anyways, I just want to know, like, was that just a joke or what's up?
I knew I was gonna piss off the nerds by. So really, okay, we have a rule here which is no redos,
Right.
and I decided to go the less risky way, which was to not name the wrong guy,
Right.
and just not name the guy.
Yeah.
And Russ chimed in with the right guy. So you
didn't say Grant Cameron or
yeah.
I don't think he chimed in with the right guy. I'm the one chiming in with the right guy. It's George Lucas.
right. I said Lucas on the and then Kyle was like, yeah, Lucas. Man, I'm gonna get a lot of shit.
You know what? You call yourself a listener. You didn't even listen.
Yeah, you don't even know what you're talking about.
You got so mad, you just stopped listening, I guess, huh? Well, look, we're trying to fix that.
Okay, honestly, I got mad and I dropped my phone in the toilet. I can do something.
Hey, well, we'd love to give you a brand new iPhone, but they're not in yet. And you are our first caller.
Can I get Brothers of the Serpent engraved on it, bro?
Yeah, well,
yeah.
just hang on, and our call screener will get your address and your phone number.
That's right.
So
and we'll
we-
begin
Are
stalking you
you guys gonna
tomorrow.
send me a picture of an iPhone? Because that's what I'm feeling you're just gonna send me a picture of an iPhone.
No, actually, we're just gonna send you an Android to tell you to get real.
That's right. Like an actual Android, a tall one, about 7 feet.
But hey, we appreciate you listening to the show, and really makes us excited that we did, in fact, piss somebody off. Because hey, You know, you get somebody mad and they're going to keep listening.
That's right. Tell your friends, and they can tell their friends, and they can tell their friends. Spread the show around, man. Come on.
We're gonna get found out if we're not careful.
I'm glad you guys took my call. I don't really know what you guys were talking about in this episode.
Yeah, well, you'll find out when you listen to it. We were talking about...
Can we talk about politics in this episode?
No.
I listen to a lot of politics.
No politics.
No.
It's not a political conversation.
Yeah, it's not a political conversation. So if you make any political comments, we'll just edit that out.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, go ahead, make some political comment. Just give us the what.
No, it's gonna get freaking edited out.
No, go for it. You know what? We'll just make an exception this time. What do you got to say?
Hey, the old man, he's hilarious.
Oh yeah? You're a big.
Did you read it? Did you guys read it? Did you guys like it?
Yeah.
I read it.
That's cool. Well, we appreciate the comments there, Ty.
Is it edited out?
No. We're not. But anyway, we really appreciate the comment.
Well, here's a real story. Listen, this one's for Russ, okay? This is not political.
What is it?
Fight your way out.
Lay it on me.
What do you think, Russ? What do you think about Bill Nye the Science Guy? Is that dude a fucking fraud? Oh, pardon my French. Is that dude a fraud?
A fucking fraud?
He's a fraud.
Well,
Wait. Is he a fucking fraud? Is that what you're asking?
yeah, swearing is legal on this show.
Yeah.
Because I heard that he was
He's an engineer.
he was like I think he was a mechanical engineer and he was a comedian for like the Disney Channel or something.
He has-
And now all these people take him seriously like a real scientist. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like he just seems like a comedian actor, and
Okay, Bill Nye.
it's kind of like how everyone gets their news from Comedy Central. Now everyone's
Yeah.
getting their
He can't hear you.
from the Disney Channel. It's just what the hell's going on? What's your opinion on this, Russ?
All right, Bill
All right.
Nye. Bill Nye.
Thank you, Ty, for your call. Russ will answer your question. All right. Appreciate it, buddy.
Bill Nye is he has a mechanical engineering degree. I think a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. He's not a scientist. But he had a show, Bill Nye the Science Guy or whatever, that like millennials kind of grew up with. So they had this sort of nostalgia of being taught science by Bill Nye, and so they bring him back. You know, Bill Nye saves the world, which he, spoiler alert, he doesn't. But if you watch it, it's basically a nonstop like a lecture. That's all it is. It's just one talking point after another. It's not even. It's more like watching a religious show than a science show. You know. It's so yeah. No, he's basically a spokesman for the mainstream narrative, which they call science, and they basically will say that anybody that says anything slightly different from that is a denier, is anti-science. That's his whole shtick. So he's not a scientist.
All right. Well, there's the answer to your question, Ty, and we appreciate the first call in, and we're gonna work on that in the future, and we'll get better at it. We're gonna eventually have it plugged in instead of me holding the phone in front of the microphone. So,
Yeah.
but,
Where he can't hear us, or me, because I'm over here.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that was pretty good. First experiment there.
Yeah, this is a good experiment.
Where were we? Ty got us all messed up.
Right, we were talking about Mormons.
Oh yeah.
And really, what I wanted to get at is that
My sister tortured.
enough things line up in the story with the metal books, the strange apparitions. Like if you look at the Our Lady of Guadalupe, the way she appears to the peasant down there, who then, she says that she wants a freaking cathedral built on the top of this mountain, on this hill that he's on, and she tells him to go tell the bishop, right? And he's like a peasant guy. He's like, well, how am I going to see the bishop? And she's like, go. So he runs down there. He goes all the way to the city and like convinces all the staff of the church to get into the bishop. And he tells them, he's like, I've seen I have seen the mother, and like she wants, he doesn't. The bishop's kind to him, but doesn't, he's like, I'm not, I can't. You're claiming to see a miracle, but I can't, I can't just build a church up there or whatever. So he leaves, and she appears to him again, and it's the same deal, like a beam of light. She's appearing in the light, right? The Fatima vision, the same way.
What's the Fatima?
It was a famous kind of like prophecy, also of supposedly the Virgin Mary, and it was in a place called Fatima. So these 3 children were seeing this, and by the end of it, the third appearance, like there were thousands and thousands of people there to witness it, because they like wow, and they all witnessed crazy. There's accounts of it. So basically, these kids witnessed the first one, and they told a bunch of people. Then, so a whole bunch of people sort of from the town area showed up to see the second time, and then they saw a bunch of stuff, and then that spread out like wildfire. And then the third time, there were thousands and thousands of people there, and the kids out in the front, and then they were the only ones that could see the Virgin Mary and heard her talking. But everybody there saw some kind of light show weirdness. It's very interesting. So Joseph Smith's visions, whatever he calls his visions or whatever, appear the same as these types of things, right? And then the way they talk to him, and the things that the things that he's told to do, the stuff, and then the books are like, they look like reports of what was happening in the Americas during biblical times. Right. That's really what it looks like. And I haven't been able to find where I read this, which is bugging me, but there's a when Solomon was sort of, he was getting ready to turn over the kingdom to his sons, or to his son or whatever, he was kind of handling his affairs, right? Because it seemed like he was getting ready to go on some kind of journey, like he was going to just, walk the earth, right? As the old king. But he had this humongous, magnificent library of metal books, and he's dispersing them. So obviously, most of them he leaves to the kingdom, to his son. He's like, here's all this wisdom and knowledge and everything. But he's got a personal library that he sort of separates out, that he's going to put somewhere else. And then it says that he also gives a bunch of books to some emissaries, angels, who then take the books in these big chests and take them to the other side of the world, is what it said.
Yeah.
They cross the sea with them. And so it's like there's even this legend that metal books were taken to the Americas, right? And so when you read the books of Nephi in the Mormon Bible, which is basically, those are the translations from the metal pages. The thing that interests me the most about those is that it's telling you the names of these gigantic, massive, advanced cities that were here in antiquity, that were all destroyed in a cataclysm in various ways. Some of them were utterly obliterated, right? But some of them were just buried, which means they're still there, like in that spot, and it tells you where they were, what they were called, and how they were destroyed. And there's one in South America, and I can't remember the name. It's a long, complicated name, but it starts with a Z.
A Z?
Yeah, it starts with a Z.
Oh, AZ. It
starts with a Z, the letter Z, and it's like Ziz, whatever the name is, right? Mm-hmm. But Percy Fawcett, the guy we were talking about, the explorer, was looking for what he called the lost city of Z, right? Ah. And then, and then manuscript 512 tells you about this fucking ancient city up on top of the mountains that was destroyed in some kind of cataclysm, fire, whatever. They thought it was burned. So there's enough connections there. Those are the lost city of Z, right? Why did you think it was Z? Probably because, there's also another explorer that comes to South America. I won't even get into this, but basically he goes to Utah. He comes to the United States. He goes to Utah and spends a couple of months hanging out with Brigham Young, the guy running the Mormon church or whatever, and like they kind of hit it off. And I think he probably wanted to see those books. Yeah. Then he ends up in South America, searching for lost city of Z. He translates manuscript 512. That he's the one who ends up translating it.
Oh wow.
Okay, so he translates it, or actually, it's really strange. His wife does. So it's like him and his wife are down there. He's kind of going out doing weird explorer things or whatever, and she's in the hotel room like translating manuscript 512, which he just includes at the end of one of his diaries. Like this guy published every single journal he wrote. So there's like massive amounts of text that were published of his explorations. And in one of his journals, just at the very end as an appendix, is manuscript 512 with no explanation. Right? He just appends it to it. And then he disappears into the jungle for like 3 or 4 months, and that is one of the only periods of his adult life that is not recorded. He just vanishes into the jungle, and when he comes back, the descriptions of what he was like, he comes back out of the jungle, and he's in a port town or whatever in Brazil, and he just goes to the bar every day, and he's like drinking nonstop, and he's got this like faraway stare, and he does that for like a week. He's just drinking and just staring at and talking to nobody and staring off into space, like he just had his mind blown, basically. He's sitting there like, holy crap, what did I just fucking see in the jungle, right? But then he gets his shit together, goes back to England. Anyway, so that's why I think the books of Nephi are fascinating, because when I read them, I'm like, this is real.
Yeah, that's what I think too. That it's a possible ancient account of the histories here in the Americas and in
right. Whatever the Mormons, their religious practices, I'm not even talking about that.
Right.
I'm just saying
Same here.
this text, these books, I think are authentic.
Right, and just going back to the fact that he goes and describes the way the ancient texts appeared, on these metal pages and all that.
Right. How would you know that? Yeah.
It's corroborated by all of this other stuff.
Yeah. Later. Yeah.
That was later found, and I know there is one. I don't know where I read this either, and I need to go look back into it. It's been a long time since I've looked into this stuff, but one of the cities that was written about in those books, they actually discovered more recently.
Yeah.
So it's another thing. This whole idea, that there are these various cities, accounts of these cities that are, gone, and most, modern archaeologists think that's total BS.
Right.
It reminds me of and I'm not going to know the names of these people, but I think it was in Homer's Iliad. He talks about these cities, right, that were these old cities or whatever, that everybody thought it was all crap.
Troy and Troy.
And this one guy takes it seriously.
He's like,
and
this is not. Yeah.
He starts trying to triangulate the location of the thing based on what it was written, and he goes there and he finds it.
Right, and he was a maverick, and everybody thought he was bullshit. He's not a real scientist, not a real archaeologist. Well, he just went out there and he finds Troy, and he spends the next several decades excavating it.
Yeah. So this is
and by the
another
way,
example of low hanging fruit.
Right.
We have an ancient text here. Well, it's not considered ancient,
right?
The Book of Mormon, but it describes where these cities are in the Americas, and dude,
the Book of Mormon is not considered ancient, but the books of Nephi are ancient. That's what I say.
Right, but nobody other than possibly the high-ranking members of the church have ever seen the actual metal pages. But apparently, they still have.
And by the way,
some of them.
The Mormon Church owns a mountain in New Jersey. They bought.
That's right.
They own the freaking hill that the mountain, quote unquote, hill, whatever it is that Joseph Smith supposedly found and supposedly he put them back. I don't believe that. I don't believe that he put those golden pages back.
Yeah.
But I do believe that hiding place is still up there, and there may be other stuff in it.
That was another thing about Utah too, the incredible amount of petroglyphs of all of this crazy looking stuff. It's all over.
And how it's a mirror of Middle Eastern topography.
They just made a beeline for
and they're like,
Utah.
oh yeah, this place is Moab, which is the name of an ancient
Holy Land.
Yeah.
So in the story, God, who's taking this family of people that didn't break the rules during the Tower of Babel thing and sending them over to the Holy Land, their Holy Land,
right,
their promised land. And so going back to possibly.
And who
there
were
were already existing structures here and all this kind of stuff before that may have been the giants or whatever. So the Tower of Babel takes place roughly, apparently 600 years after the flood.
Right.
So the flood was, the flood happened basically to destroy all of the Nephas, basically, that broke the rules. That's what I was talking about, Shimyaza and the 200 that came down,
right,
that took the daughters of men to be their wives, and they propagated throughout the earth and all this stuff. You know,
Yeah, so
the giants or the
you see that it says Noah was a righteous man.
renown. Yeah.
Or Noah was a righteous man. What did it say? It was righteous in all his generations, right? Which is basically, if you righteous did not mean moral. It meant he was correct genetically, right? He was righteous in the sense that he was naturally right. He was not a mixture of human and Nephilim.
Yeah, but also there was a story about how when he was born, like his mother, when his mother gave birth to him, his father, or quote unquote the guy that was married to his mom,
Yeah.
like flipped out because he was like shining one or something.
Oh,
he
I didn't
was
know
not.
that.
Yeah, so he was not.
So he was correct genetically, but not necessarily human.
He was not his father's blood. Not his.
one of
father.
those.
He was not his mother's husband's blood.
Right.
And he flipped out, and I think it was Enoch who told the husband, like, dude, no.
Yeah, just
Like,
relax.
this is on purpose.
Right.
So she was visited by an angel.
Right. And so many stories like that, like the mother of the Buddha. Like when I read this, I was like, okay, holy crap. Like the mother of Buddha, she claims to have had a vision of a white elephant with 6 tusks who visits her in the night, and then, the Buddha is conceived. And like in India, the elephant is the sacred animal. So it's a god symbol. And in the 6 tusks, well, the Anunnaki had horns.
Right. You look at the sculptures and the statues of the Anunnaki, and they have these 6 tusk-like horns that come around from the back of their head and come around to the front, like where their forehead is, and they curve upward.
Right. They had long heads.
Right.
And then they had horns on their heads they started in the very back of the skull, curve around over the ears, and end up with a forehead, and then kind of angle up a little bit. And then there was another set and another set. And they based rank off of number of horns, or at least they used symbols like that's why we have chevrons in military. The chevron is the horn symbol. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Going up in rank. So Enki was supposed to have had 3 sets, 6 horns. Enlil was 4. So, that stuff is just wild. And of course, we have the horn.
That's
demons.
why we're talking about this, because it's episode 6.
That's right, 6 demons. So yeah, like I think there are probably. I have read so many accounts in North America of people discovering like vast ancient ruins buried underneath, like not necessarily buried, but they're underground usually, because they're obviously there's no ruins on the surface. But there will be stories of people they were like hunting fossils in the desert, and they something happens and they fall into what they think is a chasm or whatever, but it turns out to be a cut tunnel. They broke through the ceiling into it, and they see like that it's cut, and it's some kind of waterway, because there's like these faces of stone that stick out of the walls, whatever, and there's water pouring out of them, and they're in the desert, right? And there's water or whatever, and then they hear like they're like, whoa, and then they hear this rumbling or whatever, and then just a bunch of water starts coming down the pipe, like stuff's still working.
Dang it!
Yeah, and then they have to.
I want to fall into a chasm in the desert
Yeah.
that ends up being a tunnel.
That's right. These 2 boys walking through the
Yeah,
woods.
the old Jim Vieira.
Yeah, telling the stories of people finding this stuff.
That reminds me too that there's this copper mine, and I don't know where it is, but it's in
Michigan.
In Michigan, okay.
Michigan. Michigan? Yeah. Yeah, it's a Michigan copper mines is famous. Yeah.
And it's huge, and they've figured out like how many tons of copper were removed out of it.
Yeah. So it's so much that they like, and of course you have to realize that they're estimating people in butt flaps with like rudimentary tools, but they're saying that it would have taken 1,000 men 10,000 years, or 10,000 men 1,000 years to remove all this material. And of course,
10,000 men, 1,000 years.
where did it go? There's not. I mean, there's so much copper removed from these mines that the Americas should be covered in copper artifacts, and it's not.
Right. But meanwhile,
We have the Bronze Age happening in Europe.
yeah. Oh
And
man.
down there at Pumapunku, there's a lot of green rocks.
I'm afraid you're gonna hit that mic.
No, I'm
with
not
your
gonna hit
head.
it.
It's like so.
I know where
close.
it is.
Okay, I don't know. It looks, for me, it's
I know where it is. There's a lot of green rocks down there, and
staring at your forehead.
yeah, stop looking at my forehead.
Sorry.
I've noticed, like when you look at the ruins down there, Tiwanaku used to be a port city. It used to be on the water.
Right.
and there's just green. The stones are coated in green shit, and like copper leaves green residue, right? And near that area is one of the only sources of tin in the Americas, and you need copper and tin to make bronze. So what if they were smelting bronze there at Tiwanaku and then shipping it off to freaking Europe? Anyway, yeah. So there's the huge copper mines in Michigan are a mystery. There are tools everywhere. They're primitive ones or whatever, but there's no people, there's no bones, there's no remnants whatsoever. They can't even find, like, where did all these people live? Like, there was obviously a massive operation going on here. Yeah. They had to have lived somewhere, but there's no sign of any kind of housing or whatever. So I think it seems to have been temporary. Like they showed up during a season in boats. All came in boats. They got out. They lived on the boats, lived on the ships, probably in the Great Lakes, did all the mining and stuff, got all the and then left. And there was no. And when they were done, they just dropped tools and took off.
Yeah, but up there, in Canada, and there are all of these other petroglyphs that are like carved into the granite stone, like real deep. And there's like a place. It's just
the faces ones are weird.
There's just so much stuff here, and yet the modern archaeological model is just like, nope.
Right. And then there are, of course, the like incredibly anomalous stuff like that Michael Cremo talks about in his book Forbidden Archaeology.
He talks like really slowly.
He talks like the Clear Eyes guy. Yeah.
He's great though.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly talk about that. Yeah, so he has all these accounts in Forbidden Archaeology, and that book is like a 900-page tome. Like, it's
I need to get that book.
Yeah, it's badass. But some of my favorite accounts in that, like during the gold rush in California, the 49ers, the 1849, the gold rush there, there's a mountain there called Tabletop Mountain, and next to it is a canyon. And they basically the miners went down into the canyon and then kind of dug directly into the sides of the canyon walls underneath Tabletop Mountain. Okay? And they would sort of drift up and down until they found like a gravel bed. Okay? And they got to the gravel bed, and then they would basically sift down to the gravel until they found what was an ancient surface. Okay? So it's like it used to be the surface, and now it's underneath this mountain, and they would find a riverbed on this ancient surface and sort of just like sift through it, and there were gigantic gold nuggets in the riverbed down there.
That's so freaking awesome.
So that's what they were looking for, but they kept coming across artifacts because this is an ancient surface, and so things used to live here, but they were coming across human artifacts,
like stone tools,
yes,
arrowheads and stuff.
The most, and they were all of them, a bunch of the mines. So at the time, the head of the USGS, the United States Geological Survey in California, the head got interested in this, and so he started going to the mines. He would visit the mine. He would do this round, like he would visit each mine and visit and talk to the miners, and then if they had artifacts, he would try to see them. He would document them, or even they would take him into the mine to show him where they had recovered them or whatever. And he did as much documentation as he could. So this guy, a legit scientist, was recording all this stuff. And one of my favorite ones that he talked about was in drifting up and down, looking for the riverbed, they found the riverbed, and alongside the riverbed, they found a humongous fossilized tree trunk. So this gigantic petrified tree trunk, and laying kind of like next to it, underneath it or whatever, was an intact human skeleton. Okay, with fossilized also, and then around it were stone tools, very, very good ones. Okay, that guy died before the mountain existed. So the mountain moved on top of it. Cremo points this out, and he's like, this Tabletop Mountain, like, moved on top of this person. However, it grew, but this person died in this.
Yeah, so it wasn't pushed up from underneath.
Right. Yeah.
It actually moved over top.
Right. It had
the
to
surface
have, or the surface had to have been subducted beneath it or something.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So like the mountain did not exist over top, and so it has since moved over it. And you start thinking about geological ages, and the geological age of the strata that this thing was found in was 350 million years old, so according to.
Maybe the mountain is a pyramid and it's his tomb.
That's right. They did find somebody buried in a tomb in a pyramid. Yeah, so that was one of the best ones of that. And this dude, he published a paper about this. When at the end of his career, when he was done and he had this whole collection, he wrote up a very badass, like scientific paper on all these artifacts and everything that had been found in these impossible places. Every single one of these are ooparts, out of place artifacts. And man, it pissed off the archaeologists. Yeah, you
out of place.
You got to record that. Sounds hilarious. But so he published this paper and it just pissed off everyone. It pissed off all the Darwinists, all the evolutionists, because it's putting modern humans in impossible ages. And like one guy even said, I can't remember the geologist's name, but this one dude put out a statement. He was like, if he had a clear understanding of the theory of evolution, he would not have published that paper. That's basically what he said. Like, you shouldn't have published it because it disagrees with our theory. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to talk about the stuff in the coal mines too, but we're out of time. We need to take another break here. But they found a gigantic wall of cubes in a coal mine. I'm just going to say that. 2 miles down. Gigantic wall of cubes.
Yeah, we can talk about it in the next segment.
That's right.
Which is in like 15 seconds.
After this music.
Snake Bros. Snakes. And we're already back.
That's right.
Ready for the second half of the second hour.
Coming to you from our 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of science from high atop the Edwards Plateau. And going out to you wherever and whenever you are. We're talking about ancient shit.
No way.
Deep in the ground.
We don't talk about ancient shit.
We're trying a new thing out.
We talk about Luke George, who invented star rats.
That's right. And that was also ancient because it was in a galaxy long, long ago, far, far away.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's also ancient shit.
Ancient death planets flying around shooting stars.
Take care.
The dark planets lit by no sun.
With lights.
I've been listening to Night Vale, in case anybody can tell. I found this great podcast called Night Vale. It's like really short, weird stories. It's got in my head. Anyway, I briefly mentioned a wall of cubes 2 miles beneath the ground, and that was
Science cubes.
They were probably science cubes. But the story is basically it was a coal mine. I think it was in Kentucky, and it was 2 miles deep. The guy said that they had to pump air to them down there, so far down. But they basically it was a shaft going down 2 miles, and then it kind of at the bottom of the shaft a tunnel or a drift went, to either side. So it was a long tunnel, and then off that tunnel were rooms where each individual miner or engineer or whatever had his particular room that he was assigned to. He'd go in there and set charges, and then they would set the charges off at the end of the day and blast, and then they would wait for so they would leave the mine, and then the next day they come back when all the dust is settled. They go down in there and there's coal broken off over there, and they start loading it up. So he said they did that one day, and they went down the next day, and he said in his room he went in there and he saw a couple of like cubes in amongst the coal, and he said that they had been damaged by the explosion, but he said that the surfaces were almost mirror polished. They were so, he was like, I thought they were stone or something, but they were so freaking fine on the edge, on the surfaces that they were like shiny like a mirror. But he saw that on the broken parts they looked like concrete on the inside, right? Like not like stone, but some kind of aggregate. Okay, and then he said the whole the whole mine started to kind of creak and rumble or whatever, and they all knew that meant there was going to be a kind of a cave-in. So they like escaped, and there was a huge cave-in or whatever. And they went back down the next day. He said in his room, a whole section of coal had fallen off the wall, and there was a freaking wall of those cubes. Like, okay.
Oh man, that's freaking
And
cool.
okay, this is 2 miles down. Okay, so 2 miles below the surface is a fucking wall that was obviously built. Okay, and he said that the wall went along the back wall of his room, and he said that the cave-in had made it appear in other rooms down the drift too. So it was like a long freaking wall. And he said that after that, the company pulled them all out of the mine, shut it down, and sent every one of them to different places, like to new. They completely shut the mine down. But I bet you it's still there. Damn it!
Well, I doubt anything has removed it. 2 miles.
I mean, the
down.
mine. They didn't close it. They didn't like close it up, blast it or whatever to close it up.
Yeah, I'm just being
Yeah,
just being this.
the wall's probably still there too. But that's one of my So there's a bunch of stories about people finding stuff in coal. I mean, like through the Industrial Revolution, when people were handling coal personally. So like you have the coal miners down there digging it out personally, whereas now we have machines doing it. But then coal was being delivered to people, in big chunks, and down a chute into your basement, where you would then go down to the basement and break the chunks up to be able to put them in your furnace, right? And so people were finding stuff in the coal. They'd break it open. There's numerous reports of people breaking open a big chunk of coal, and there's like a gold chain. Something gold, usually because it's the only thing that doesn't get destroyed by time. But they would find gold artifacts embedded in the coal. And there's numerous stories where they would take a woman would find it. The chain would be hanging out of the other half of the coal, and the one that she had broken off would have the
impression or whatever.
the impression of the chain, and she would take it to the local doctor or somebody who was scientific in nature or whatever, the local natural philosophers, and then of course they would display it. They were like, it's like, what is this? And of course, because of the times, and we were talking about the 1800s, early 1900s, they considered it to be because of the flood.
Right.
Stuff gets buried deep in the earth because of the flood, right? Which, who knows what it was, but there's enough of stories like that are, I don't know. We talk about low-hanging fruit. There was so in California, it was near Mount Shasta. Not in it, but near it. There's a Cascade Range there of Rocky Mountains or whatever, and there was a petroleum engineer basically who had been hired by a company to go out and survey, prospect, kind of do a geological survey on this big area in the Cascades that they had leased to be able to get whatever kind of resources were there, any minerals, any oil, whatever. So they hired him to go out, and he hiked all over this area, this gigantic area.
That would be the greatest job
I
in
know,
the
it'd be an
world.
awesome job, right? And he's
want
just
that job.
he's looking for surface signs of mineral wealth in the ground, and he found I thought of you when I was reading this, because you talked about this, how you would think like you see like a mountain face, and then there's this like sort of ramp of material, and you're
Yeah.
like, there's a city buried beneath that, because that's where you put your city there, and then all this stuff collapses onto it. He found something like that. He saw this rock face, and there was a scree hill, of material, and he thought it looked odd, so he kind of cleared some of it away and found a freaking door in the rock of the mountain wall, the cliff wall. Okay, and that door led to like a descending shaft that went, down into the rock, and then opened up into a series of rooms that had a bunch of weird stuff in it, and then that opened up into what he described as a freaking city beneath the mountains, abandoned. But he said that there were fossilized megafauna down there. Okay, so like there were freaking saber-toothed tigers that were mummified, dead in the streets of this freaking city. Okay, so the reason we know this is because he eventually tells people, but he keeps this secret for like 30 years. Okay, so like 30 years later, like after doing this prospecting or whatever, like he has this prospecting job, and then like 30 years goes by, he doesn't say a fucking word to anybody. But if you look at his history, like he starts acting strangely, starts going to libraries and checking out books on ancient shit, right? Looking at it looks like he's obviously trying to like, what did I find? What did I fucking find, right?
Yeah.
So he's looking up all this weird stuff, but he keeps it completely secret. He doesn't tell. He gives the company the report on the all the mineral wealth or whatever, but he does not tell them about this. He's like, this is not mineral wealth. He's like, but he continues to go back to it, and apparently he does research on it by himself for 30 years, and eventually, like near he's getting older, and he decides, okay, like it's time to tell people about this, and he sort of has it's not a press conference, but he goes to like a local like a geological chapter or whatever, and basically gives a presentation. Okay, he says, he gives a presentation on this. He's like, I know this sounds crazy, but I found this place. I've been studying it for decades, and I'm ready to take an expedition there, and I want this place to be, I want it to be studied scientifically. Like, we need to understand what this is, because it is not anything we know of. And he arranges...
He died.
He arranges the... Well, okay, he arranges the expedition, and you can find this. This is in the records. All these people are like slated to go. He meets, they have a big meeting on the night before they're going to go the next morning. He's going to take them to the site. They have a big meeting. Okay, keep in mind that he's not charging anybody any money. Okay, so he's, people
Can't
like,
follow the money.
right. Well, people are like, oh, he's just hoaxing people to make money, right? Well, he's not charging anybody any money. Everyone's ready to go. They've got all the vehicles. Everything's ready to go, and so they leave to go sleep, and then come meet back in the morning, and he never is seen again. Okay, and like this same type of thing is repeated over and over and over.
I have this problem with those things that, like, there's two ways to look at it.
Right.
Like, every fantastic story like this ends in the same way. No one knows. The guy died, vanished, never came back, blah, blah, blah. So you've got, on the one hand, the ultimate conspiracy, which is that there's some force, whatever, that is not wanting these things to be publicized,
Right.
and become, knowledge to the general public.
Yeah.
And that's a vast conspiracy theory spanning many, many, many hundreds of years of modern day research, and all these people, scientists and whatever, just or
Like the giants,
Yeah.
all disappearing.
or it's just or it's the same, like, the
Right.
reason why the guy disappears is because
It's bullshit.
Because it's bullshit.
Right, but the thing is like there are stories like that where you're like, okay, this could have been bullshit, but this one doesn't match up with it being bullshit. Why would it be bullshit?
Which is where you end up if you look into enough of the stories like this.
Yeah.
You start seeing similarities between them that are uncanny.
Right.
Then you start then the things that have actually been proven about the stories start to add up. Like, the various things are the same across the board on all
Right.
these different ones. But it's just,
Like one of the most famous ones like this is the quote unquote lost Egyptian ruins in the Grand Canyon. I mean, that is famous. Like, and the Phoenix Gazette, like the major newspaper of a big city, put a front page freaking article out about it. You can go look it up online. The Phoenix Gazette is a front page, full spread, and they tell the whole story of this prospector that was going down the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon in his boat, looking at the cliff walls for stains that would be signs of metal, iron, whatever. So see rust stains. So he's going, and he's in a part of the canyon that's like, it's farther south than people usually go. And if you look at the park now, all that shit's closed. You can't go there. But also in the park, if you notice, there's the names of stuff, like the Temple of Set.
right.
The
Tower of Isis.
That's right. They name it all this weird stuff like an Egyptian base. But anyway, he says the article in the newspaper says that he was going down the river or whatever, and he notices some stains coming down the wall. He's like, okay, I need to get up there, and it's kind of halfway up the cliff. So it's halfway down from the top of it, but also halfway up from the water. And he says it was a pain in the ass to get up there, but he managed it. And when he gets up there, he realizes there's a ledge that you couldn't see from down on the river surface. There's a ledge, and he gets up on the ledge, and there's a freaking portal in the stone, like an arched open door in the cliff wall. And long story short, there is a massive complex of tunnels in there that were cut, and that they have. There's like hieroglyphs, and there's a room that racked with mummies against the wall that he said were like 12 feet tall, and like, okay, so it has all the elements.
Yeah.
And even one tunnel that he's afraid to go down, but he starts to go down it, and it's like, if you read the newspaper, it says it smelled snaky, like it,
Smelling snakes.
That's right. He smelled like he went down there, and he's like his whole body was like no, and it's like smelled musky or whatever, and he just got the idea that something bad was down. Anyway, that's all in there, and then it tells about how they organized a big expedition. Some doctor from the Smithsonian is going to go, and like he's going to but if you look, you can't find this doctor ever being a part of the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian's like, no, there's no Egyptian stuff in the Grand Canyon, It's like, but look at the fucking front page thing on the newspaper,
Yeah.
And this prospector guy did exist. And anyway, there's
So modern day journalists are all about like telling you that past journalists, oh, that's all hoaxers.
right. They're
all
all
this,
just making up hoaxes.
but modern day journalists, oh, everything we say is the truth. No, it's not fake news.
Right. Everything they said was fake, but everything they say is true.
But that actually reminds me. I went to Austria
Oh yeah.
in '97, and I stayed there for 3 months, and I stayed with a couple that are really good friends of our family,
You're no stranger to murder.
and
One of them was an entomologist.
Death is not the
Bug
deterrent
scientists.
it once was.
yeah, Miss Ann.
Do it.
Would-
You're no
I
stranger
homeschooled.
to murder.
So I had all my school books and stuff, and it was like my freshman year of high school. And Miss Ann would give me like these assignments. Pretty much every day she'd she'd write something on a piece of paper. Here, go find this place, and just to come back and give me a report. And sometimes she would take me to various, castles and all this kind of stuff. Well, one of the places she took me was this castle that was off out of the city. I was in Vienna. I don't remember where the castle was. I could find it if I looked it up, but terrible about names. I don't remember the name of it.
We'll never find it.
No, I've looked it up before. But, anyway, I went there, and there was a moat in front of the castle, and there's the bridge, the drawbridge or whatever that you go across. And I'm like standing on the drawbridge, and I'm looking off the side, and I see down in the moat. It was a dry moat, really, really deep. There's like these archways that go. There's an opening way down there. It just goes into the side of this cliff face or whatever. But the archways are like constructed stone.
Yeah.
And they're not. They're really strange. It's like a curve on the left side that goes up into the thing, but doesn't completely arch all the way back down. And then on the right side, there's another curve that's further in from that, going up from the right to the left. And there's like numerous ones. It was really strange looking. And I was just like, what is that? There's like a cave down there, I wanted to go. I was like, I want to go down there.
Just that cave. Fighting.
And Miss Ann is super cool. She's like, well, just ask one of the guys if they can take you down there. So I asked this guy, like, hey, can I go down there? And he's like, I'm thinking he's just gonna be like, no. He's like, well, you'd have to climb down. And I'm like, yes, but I can. And he's like, yeah, sure, if you can find a way down.
So blame me if you get lost and die.
So I'm like, all right. So I go off and I'm walking around this moat looking for a place, and I find a place where I can climb down into it. And I climb down there, and I run across the bottom of the moat down.
Get eaten by alligators.
No, it was dry.
All right,
It was
right,
totally
right,
dry.
right.
I mean, there were trees growing down in the bottom of this thing.
Wow.
But I get down to this thing, and I go in. I don't have a flashlight or anything. But the entrance goes in. It's this big room, and the ceilings are like really, really high, and there's like these huge beam-looking things up at the top, and there's like chains and stuff hanging down from these beams. I was just like, whoa, that's weird. And there's
Castles
a big
always
room.
have rooms beneath it with chains.
Yeah,
hanging
yeah.
down, skeletons hanging from the chains.
Oh, I left this one part out. The guy told me that the cave went all the way to the Danube River, which is 4 miles away.
Whoa.
Okay.
What? Whoa.
So I was like, oh man. Anyway, I'm in the room, and the cave turns like to the left, and this corridor is just going down, and there's like, it's like rough stone. It's cut out. It's really, really high ceiling, rough stone, but every so often there, say like 20 feet apart or 40 feet apart, there are these constructed stone arching pillar type things that come out of the walls, right? Like 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah.
And they're like 3 or 4 feet wide, and they go up and they arch. It's really amazing. I have a bunch of pictures of it, but I can't, it goes down to just black. Just dark. Yeah, I'm just like, whoa, dude, this is crazy. And I'm like, I'm coming back. Dude, I got to come back with like flashlights and all this stuff. So I do that. And I had a friend that I met at the University of Vienna there. Her name was Suze. And she was a climber, a mountain climber. Yeah. She had all this equipment. I'm like, dude, let's freaking go, So let's go get lost and die. Yeah. We take the train, we go back to this place, and we get down in there, and we go into the first room. We brought our flashlights. This is before freaking LEDs.
Yeah.
We got these little, battery, little
Crappy
lights that don't
incandescents.
shine. Yeah. And we're going down this big corridor, just checking it out. And there's graffiti and all this stuff from people. But we come upon this huge thing. I didn't know what it was at first, but it was like the size of a dining room table. And it's sitting up, and it's got this strange shape. We're like, what is that? It looks alien, We're just like, what the heck is this thing? It's sitting there. We start inspecting it, and there's like this big pocket, like this bowl-shaped thing in the middle of it. It's got these wings that come out on either side. They're big, wide things. And I'm looking, and the bowl, in front of the bowl are like these two bulging, like almost spherical-shaped knobs that kind of stick out from either side of the bowl. And I start to realize, like, that is the socket of a bone.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, I start looking at it closely with the light, and sure enough, like, there's a broken part of it, and there's marrow. Like, it's this thing.
Whale bone.
It's a pelvic bone. It looks like.
Whoa.
It sort of looks like a vertebrae, but a pelvic. It's got the two wings on the side, big flat thing. And I'm like, dude, this is a freaking pelvic bone. And there's like these massive iron bands that go around it that have like links on it, like it was chained, like they had it chained or something. But it's huge. Okay, can't pick it up, can't move it. Massive thing. And we keep going, and there's another one in there, slightly smaller. And I have pictures like standing next to this thing. It's massive. And then a little further in is this really long, like tree trunk looking thing, but it's got a flat side and it curves. And the flat side is on the concave, the inside of the curve. This long, slow curve. It's like a rib. And at the very end of it, it's big old knob on it, like a rib bone. And I'm just like, this thing's freaking, 15 feet long or something. It's huge. It looked like a tree trunk.
Yeah.
And we are just like, what the heck is this?
Whales.
I don't know. They also said we heard there were, mammoths and stuff that were discovered there, and so
Right.
I had assumed it was a mammoth bones or something. I don't know.
I mean, at 15 feet, that's got to be a whale.
It probably. I don't know, man. It's
And
huge.
the whales were a huge source of energy for the blubber, the oil, the meat. They were, yeah.
Yeah. So this is down in this cave, right?
And if there used to be water there and it came from the river, presumably they could have gotten the whale carcass into the, I don't know.
I have no idea.
But it was weird that there's bands, metal bands.
But the cave, this is the problem. The cave is like huge, right? And we're going through where these bones are. It's massive. But it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. We get down to this one part, and it looks kind of like the end. But there's this tiny doorway that's like only maybe 4 feet tall. You have to bend over completely. But it starts out, say,
Pointed on the top.
yeah, 2 or 3 feet wide, and the two sides slope in, and it's a point, like in a church, like a doorway in a church or something. And we duck down, and we go through that. And it's like this long, long, straight hallway, just like that. But this is literally carved out of the rock. I mean, it's just solid stone. There's no more construction. We get to the end of that, and there's this ramp, a slope going upward, and it's just a flat floor ramp that slopes straight up, not straight up, but very steep. Still huddled over, and we like scurry up this little ramp thing, and then there's a room that's like the 10 by 10 by 10 cube we're in right now.
Right.
About this big. And it's just 4 walls, the end. But there's a door, a wooden door, old wooden door that's like sticking out of the corner. The hinges are like onto the side or corner of the two walls that come together, and the doors are sticking out there. Like you could swing it to one wall, swing it to the other wall. There's no opening, but on the right side, it's brick and mortar, all the way up, like it's sealing off this doorway. And
Probably because he goes to the river and you don't want people coming up it.
yeah, I don't know, but there was a little tiny hole up in the top of the wall, facing straight away, like the doorway would be on the right. We'd come into the cave and come into the room, and on the opposite end of the room, where you'd be looking if you walked in, there's this little hole about the size of maybe a little bigger than a golf ball, that looked like it was going to the surface. Like I could see light coming through the hole, and I tried to like shove some stuff out of the hole and like I'm gonna go find this thing out in the wood. I just like I went all out in the woods. I could not find that hole wherever it went, but I don't know, dude. That was just crazy shit. And there was a deer in there. We're like going way down in the back, and we hear some noise like, whoa, what is this? And Suze has the flashlight, and she freaks out and just throws it like, just throws the flashlight, and we jump against the wall, and this freaking thing runs by a.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, it's a lion. We're dead. But I jump out, and I have this little disposable camera with the flash, and I just jumped out off the wall and just took a picture flash, and I saw it because it was basically pitch black. She throws the flashlight when something's running. Classic.
That's like classic, yeah.
Yeah. So I flash the camera and I see it's a freaking deer, a white-tailed deer, just like running out of the cave.
That reminds me of those two girls that went missing in South America, where they found a camera way later, and there were all these pictures in the dark. You remember that story?
No, but the way you're looking at me when you're saying that is kind of freaking me out. I'm getting goosebumps. And
Yeah, because it's just I'm like, because I have looked at this story and I'm like, what? But then you just say that right there, like she throws the flashlight, it's gone, but there's something out there in the dark, and you use the flash to see it.
Yeah.
Well, these girls.
I think I took multiple pictures, and you can tell, like, in one of the pictures you see the deer's hindquarters and it's the whitetail sticking up, and in another picture you don't see anything. In another picture it's just like just crazy, like whatever.
Right. So
pictures of the inside of a cave randomly.
Yeah. So this story, these girls disappear, and then months later their backpack is found miles and miles and miles away from the trail that they've been on. They went on this easy trail that kind of loops around. There's not anything you know, it went into the jungle, but you don't need a guide for it or anything like that. It was considered an easy tourist trail, but they went down that trail and they never came back. Well, months later their backpack is discovered, and it's miles away from this trail, but it has their stuff in it. And one of the things in there is one of their cell phones, and on the cell phone are photos of them that day when they're on the trail. Okay, there's a bunch of photos of them on the trail, smiling or whatever, and then there's no pictures for like 8 days, and then there's like 100 pictures in darkness.
Oh, good.
And you can see the ground sometimes in some of the pictures in the darkness, and they're like, it's like they were doing what you were doing, taking pictures because they don't have a
they
flash.
could see. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
God, that's freaky, man.
Yeah, and that's so. When you told me that, when you said that, I was like, wow, that's what they were doing. Because I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, if the flashlight had broken, I would have had to use the camera to get out the cave.
Right.
By
Yeah.
taking a picture and then walking in the picture that's sitting still in my mind.
Right.
It's
Exactly
burned
right.
into my retina until I run into something. Okay,
Right.
take another picture.
Yeah. And now imagine.
So that I can see the room, and I'll try to imagine myself walking through the room.
And then imagine you're being hunted while that's happening. Nope. Yeah. Nope.
Nope, not gonna do that.
Not gonna do that. Nope. The fuck out of that idea.
Out of that cave.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to take it dark there, but it just reminded me of that story, and I was like, okay, that's what they were doing. But it was 8 days later. They had flashlights up until then, and then
Yeah, I see what you're doing.
what?
You're trying to end the episode on a really scary note so that everyone cannot go to sleep, including me.
Yeah, and one of their shoes was found next to the backpack, and it still had the foot in it.
Oh my.
And that was one of the girls, and then the other one there, I think there was parts of her too, and they were the decay rate was vastly different. Like one of them had died very recently, the other one had died a long time ago. It was like, it's a very strange story, but yeah, and there were two girls from Austria, or they were
No way.
Yeah, they were from.
That's
they were,
where I was.
I know. It's like they were either from Austria. They were somewhere from Europe, but I think it could have been Swiss. I don't know, but yeah, they came down to South America to learn the language and to sort of just do the tourist thing. And
There were also some ancient ruins near this castle where that cave was. Just reminded me. I think they were Roman. There's like this huge Roman just in the middle
Hadrian's Wall.
In the middle of like green rolling fields, there's
right.
like these massive towers of stone that are like this big archway that's still there, and everything else is crumbled down. There's like all of these like low walls that they've been excavating. You can see them just like scattered all around. Oh, dude,
That's cool.
pretty wild.
See stuff like that.
Come on, we climbed around on a friggin' pyramid somewhere in Guatemala.
Yeah, on a banana plantation.
Is that where it was?
Yeah, we had to walk through a banana plantation to get there.
I was so little. I just remember like ducking through these little weird doorways and stuff on that massive structure.
It's
or whatever
it's actually a famous site now. It's got some of the tallest Mayan type pyramids. And remember how steep they were?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember being there, and there's this gigantic banyan tree. You remember that thing?
Yeah. You just like
Humongous.
climb up the roots.
Yeah,
It's like huge.
It's just humongous. We got a picture of us in there, and like we were little dots next to this tree. But the Mayan ziggurats were kind of behind that, and there were two of them that had been cleared off by the archaeologists. And I
climbed all over.
climbed
that
all
thing.
over them.
It was like the coolest playground I'd ever been on.
Yeah, and I remember going like there were little weird niches you could kind of
Yeah.
slip down inside, and there were like little statues and shit on the walls, and
But little tunnels you could go
Yeah.
through and stuff and come out. It was just,
yeah, which they look
Gotta go
like-
back there.
They're like machines, But I also remember that kind of off in the jungle distance you could see like it was in the jungle, so it was kind of dark. The area where the pyramids had been cleared was also cleared, so there was sunlight coming down from the canopy. But you could see in the darkness of the jungle gigantic hills. There were other fucking unexcavated pyramids.
Oh man, I want to go back.
Oh man, that place was amazing. Yeah, and it was in a banana plantation, which is impossible.
All right, well,
Yep, that's the end of the episode. Episode 6.
hope you guys enjoyed it.
Our last episode. Wait, no. The final episode, 6.
5 total episodes.
That's right, because one went missing. All right, and if you want to get in touch with us, you can get a hold of us at brothersoftheserpent@gmail.com, or you can go to the blog, which is associated with the podcast, brothersoftheserpent.blogspot.com, and leave comments on the episodes if you have questions about anything we talked about in one of the episodes, or anything at all, really. Complaints. That's right. Curses. Hexes. Anything like that. Magic. Secrets. You can leave comments.
or things you want us to talk about, or want to know if we know about.
Or if you have like a really great idea of how to become an out of place artifact, you can leave that on there too. But
yeah,
we will see the comments, we'll read the emails, and we will even read them on the show and address any questions with more questions because we don't have any answers. But yeah, we'll do that. So, and all the music, by the way, is original. It is Kyle Allen, Ty Stone, and sometimes me with the drums in the background.
And GMA.
And GMA, that's right.
And Byman.
And sometimes, yeah, that's right. So, thank you guys very much, and we will see you next week with episode 7.
7.
Next.